That was a good effort by the young guys in Dallas last night without Steph, without Draymond, but still frustrating, right? When you consider where they sit in the standings. And I don't know about you, but I was a little bit extra salty watching that center combination for the Dallas Mavericks. Now, Derek Lively the second out of Duke. I think a lot of us circled him in the draft and wanted him, but Dallas got him before 19, right? He wasn't going to be there at 19. And, you know, Orlando didn't take him twice in that lottery. And that was a classic example of drafting for positional need, right? They took Anthony Black and then Jet Howard. I'm not even sure he's going to be an NBA player. And the Mavs got themselves, a starting center for the next 10 years, even though Daniel Gafford, their newest acquisition, is starting in his place, at least at the moment. And that was what was a little bit salty, right? You looked at Gafford, the impact he had on that game last night, and you were like, dang, man, he was out there. He was out there. Couldn't the Warriors have got a hold of him at the trade deadline? And I have to admit, I wasn't familiar with his game. I understood who he was. I had seen him, you see him twice a year as a Warriors fan, but he is, exactly what you're looking for as far as physically speaking as an NBA big man, right? Because he can run the floor. He gets off the ground quickly. He's got good hands and he's got good timing. And you've given Luka and Kyrie this vertical lob threat to go along with Lively. Now you have a rim protector and a vertical spacer at all times on the floor for either of those guys. And ultimately, that was the undoing last night because they ran them off the three-point line. They contained Luka, contained Kyrie until late, right? But it was the points in the paint, and it was Daniel Gafford, Lively, and their size, I think, that ultimately was too much for a Warriors team where, hey, I mean, if Chris Paul and Clay are going to shoot, what they shoot like 7 of 25, that's going to be a tough thing to overcome, right? And it may not be fair in hindsight, right? I'm not going to claim like I was someone that was knocking down the door to go get Daniel Gafford, but you watched him last night, and again, it was like, dang, that's just what the doctor ordered. And I know you could say, we got Trace, we do, but you need more. That's why they went and got him. They had Derek Lively. They still went and got him. And, I think Mark Cuban at times has been over meddling with the roster and that Mavericks team, but you got to credit his aggression and his willingness to always, change things up and take a risk. I don't think we're the only team that's probably kicking themselves watching Gafford perform with this Mavericks team and saying, oh, we probably should have got him. Oklahoma City was in need of another big man, right? And there were other various teams that certainly could have used his services. And I think there was probably a stigma playing in Washington, like, oh, what a hollow number. No one's paying attention. I don't think anybody realized, or not many realized how serviceable he can be in winning and on a good team. But here's the thing. Dallas, they gave up a 2024 first round pick and Rashawn Holmes. Now, Rashawn Holmes hasn't been in a rotation in 2 or 3 seasons. Okay. But the Warriors, obviously, we don't own our 24 first round pick. So it would have had to have been, I think, the 25 first round pick, which at this point, I don't know if you want to give that up. And then it would have had to have been a combination of like Looney and Moody for Daniel Gafford or GP2 for Daniel Gafford in a first round pick. So the price tag wasn't exactly, they didn't get him for free. I've kind of heard that narrative out there. Like, how did they get Daniel Gafford? They gave up a first round pick, right? And so I guess those are all relative to how good of a team you are. But yeah, as frustrating as it was to watch him really put his stamp on that game last night, realistically, I don't think we were going to give up another first round pick in 25 and probably a rotation piece, whether that's GB2. Looney, I know he's not playing now, but they're hard pressed to trade him and what he's meant to this organization. So yeah, Dallas, man, I on paper, I really like what they've done. They've surrounded Kyrie and Luka with a bunch of athletes that run the floor. Derek Jones Jr., Lively, now Gafford. PJ Washington is a stretch four. I was calling him Budget Kuzma in today's breakdown, which is out right now on my Patreon. And I'm watching Luka, and one thing that was much more enjoyable, again, I get frustration of the loss and the offense went dry there late. It was such a more enjoyable game without the foul parade from Luka and him getting all those touch calls. So overall, I enjoyed the game. And, Luka, I read this comment that he said, "Oh, I'm not going to play as long as LeBron to pass that scoring number." Someone had asked him about LeBron's scoring title, and I was like, "You damn right you ain't." Because honestly, Luka, in my mind, is more talented of a basketball player than LeBron, but he has maybe half the work ethic, right? There's no way he's playing 20 years. The way he takes care of himself. There's all these little signs of it. But he does have he sees the game the same way as Jokic. He really does. You see some of the things he does. He just has a different mentality, right? And if we were to be talking like MVPs and comparing these two, to me, for my money, Jokic, I think gives a better effort defensively. Obviously, they're a better team at this point, and he has more accolades, but they're very similar in how good of basketball they are and how dominant they are. But I think Jokic gives you a better effort on defense, and I think he enhances his teammates better than Luka does. Let's talk about our young guys here. And I know it's frustrating at this point in the season. There are no silver linings and whatnot, but these are lumps they have to take. And I understand that people are very frustrated with Pajemski right now. But what I would say to that is, if he's doing some of these same things at this time next year, then I think you have a right maybe to be more frustrated. And it's almost as if, I get it, Kerr and the Warriors are not treating him like a rookie. And so it's almost as if the fan base isn't treating him like a rookie either. But he's out there learning as well. It's year 3 for Kuminga and Moody, and you're still seeing them learning in live time too. And so Pajemski, the finishing. Right now, to me, he is taking too many difficult shots downhill. And the irony is, as physical of a player as he is overall, he doesn't seem to seek contact when he gets downhill. And he tries to, a lot like Steph, make a difficult shot rather than initiate contact and maybe get a whistle. And I think part of it is he's very upright. He plays very upright. It's hard to get contact and finish dynamically when you're straight up and down. You think about Kyrie last night, right? And his hip bend, his ankle angles and all that stuff where he can get so low and change angles on you. But again, I think he's figuring things out, especially downhill, like when to get off the shot, when to move the ball. And I think I'm preaching a little more patience, because again, he is a rookie, even if they're not treating him like one. But you're also seeing growth from Kuminga night in and night out. And I think what was impressive about his performance last night was the fact that he was constantly dealing with a rim protector in there, whether it was Lively or Gafford. And he was dealing with just minimal spacing. Clay only played like 25 minutes. No Steph, obviously, but he still found a way to get it done and attack the basket. And he's still learning. It took until late in that third quarter was like, dude, you probably don't want to attack Gafford and Lively in their chest, right? You're going to have to do something else with that. But when you look at his archetype of like a big bully ball wing, most of them do not want to pass the ball at all. Like if you look at the history of that archetype, and he's having some turnovers, trying to make passes and transition and out of traps and stuff. What I would say is he's trying to make the passes. I think that that's the key, and that's what's going to increase his ceiling, because him being a willing passer and him taking these lumps and figuring out how to do it is going to open up as a hub, as an offensive hub, not just to go get a bucket bully ball guy, but a guy you eventually can run your offense through. So yeah, it's frustrating at times, but we have to take our lumps with these young guys. We wanted to see them play and get this opportunity. There's going to be some give and take. Let me complain about Steve a little bit here, because I know that's very in vogue right now. But there was a play in the second quarter where Moody went up to set a screen and Luka shoved him, and they called him for a moving screen, right? And Moody turns to the bench and he's like, hey, I got shoved, right? And the Warriors don't challenge it. And I've noticed this trend where the Warriors are holding on to their challenge as if they don't know the new rule where if you do win one, you gain one back. Sure enough, Kidd used a challenge in the first half on an obvious possession call because he knew he'd get another one. And it just seems like our staff is operating like, oh, we only have one, we got to save it. And that is kind of irking me of late. But let's end on some positivity, though, because Steph practiced in Santa Cruz yesterday, or with Santa Cruz. And it sounds like he may play Saturday in Los Angeles against this Lakers team where, man, you look at this play-in, Suns, Dallas, Lakers, Warriors, it's like all the marquees in the Western Conference. Something's got to give. That said, when you look realistically at the standings, at this point, are you just hoping for home court in a play-in? Never mind getting out of the play-in. Is it just maybe getting 2 shots at it and bumping up to the 8th or 7th, right? Or at the very least, playing that home game as the 9 seed? Because if it is this Lakers team that we see, you look at the history playing at Staples Center for Steph and Clay and this matchup, at the very least, you'd want it to be in San Francisco. And so it goes without saying, this is a big one Saturday. Hopefully Steph is back in uniform. As always, I'll be back to cover that one. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.